Hello everyone, Brett Settles with Revizto here, and I wanted to make a video that really shows what we have been striving for since the release of version 5. One of the things that we got in feedback going a couple years back is that people really enjoyed the tool. They enjoyed the way that collaboration works and how it enabled the field and non-technical users to get into the model, but there were some hoops that we had to jump through. So our big thought process was, okay, how can we make our product something that prevents a complicated model management practice? And that was really kind of our first goal. Now, what that entailed was creating some very technical tools around clash detection and making sure that we didn't have to send these models anywhere except to our platform from the way that we create these models. So we're going to really walk through that today and really show how that process works, just to get everyone acquainted with how we foresee this working whenever it is released. So first of all, we got to go all the way back to the release of version 5. And the reason that we have to do that is because that is where the inclusion of the object data tools came into play. So that means the object tree, the ability to drill down through that object tree and actually find items here and being able to find those very quickly. The ability to see those items and their properties, all the way from fabrication software through the authoring software. So RFA information, ITM information, Plant 3D, Civil 3D, Revit, ArchiCAD, SketchUp, just a ton of different information that we can bring in and use all in a mixed environment, including things like reality capture. As everyone's probably seen that in prior presentations that we've done. So in version 5, that's where all of this was included, and this gives everyone the ability to switch through, see specific properties that they would like, navigate the object tree. This is also the version in which we introduced the ability to find objects, which was a critical point, or will be a critical point in clash detection. As the find objects is where we can go in, find a property condition, get exactly that property condition, find all of those objects of that system, and then save those as a search set inside of our folder structures, which we'll talk about here in a second. Search sets are the basis of Clash, and to create search sets, you have to understand how to find objects, which is exactly what we've done here on a very simple system classification. However, as you can see, there are many properties available. In fact, any property that's part of your authoring tool will come through here. So, given that, we can also use our actual objects to create these search sets. So, for example, if we do not know our model, maybe we didn't create the model, we don't understand the standards, and our job is to figure out what's going on with it, we can actually select on items, show their properties, and create search sets based on a property. So here we can say, create a new search for those structural columns, find all, and then save that as a set. I can go in here, find what I want to, save it under. Here you can see that we have different sets. We have search sets that are more for model data and the ability to use that data, which includes things that wouldn't be included in clash detection. As you can see up here, we have our own sets for clash. So in this situation, I may just go save this under the structural parent folder and then give that a name. And that allows us to save all of those sets, which will play a major role in clash detection. which we will get into here in a moment. Now, the other thing that we need to understand about clash detection is that we've enabled some visibility tools that assist in the live meeting. Now, the reason that that's important is because of our appearance templates. Appearance templates allow us to generate a view on the fly. And here we can see that we have an isolated selection. Or if I go to the white appearance profiler, it turns everything white except for my selection. If I go to the construction model, it shows me everything I need for construction, including all of those files. And here we have the design model. I still have those columns selected. Everything is right-click sensitive, so I can just go and unselect that if I want to get around that. However, here, what's most important is that we can see that we are utilizing search sets in order to determine exactly what our appearance template looks like. The reason that I'm pointing this out is because these will actually play a role in reviewing clashes, both in the office and in a live meeting. All right, moving on. What we're going to talk about is actually creating the test. And we're going to make this really simple. This is not going to be a super long video, and it's really not meant to be. We are going to offer more technical videos on this, as well as in-person training like we always do. So this is going to be more for everyone to wrap their heads around it. Now, we just got done talking about search sets and the object data. And that was actually released with version 5, which has been out for a while, and we've been able to refine that release before clash detection. But that was always going to be the basis for this. So here, we're going to open up Clash Automation, and we're going to see the dialog for this. Now, when we say Clash Automation, what we are doing is we are giving the human the control that they've been used to using standard industry tools, but we're automating as much of the labor as we could find as our industry team consulted directly with our development team throughout this process. So in here, this is where things can get pretty simple. Obviously, we have to understand object data. That's very important. So I don't want to breeze over that fact. But once we understand that, the clash test part becomes very easy. Everything is based on search sets in Revizto. We can pull selections into search sets if needed, but we really feel like the search sets are the way to go, especially with rapid model changes. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically go in and select my clash test here, my clash test categories here, and we are going to take the mechanical search sets and we are going to compare those against the structural. So very simple test, mechanical versus structural. So what we want to do here is name our test. We'll give it a very common name. Here, it's going to make sure that I share these folders. Clash detection in Revizto is going to be a very collaborative process. We're removing the information silos of simple file formats, putting this into a cloud environment. So here, we can share all the parent folders, say, okay, problem is solved. All of our folders are shared across the project. And I can say done. Next, it's going to ask us what type of clash do we want to do. In this situation, we can choose a hard clash, a clearance with a horizontal and vertical difference, a tolerance, or a tolerance with a horizontal and vertical difference. In this case, we're just going to go with a hard clash. We can choose elements or geometries, And we can even choose to ignore clashes in the same models. Now what you're going to notice is as I step through this, I'm really kind of moving the entire picks and clicks of the process to the front end. We know what type of results we want as industry professionals, and we don't really need to step through that process in a pick and click manner every time we want to run through this. So for example, grouping is now taken care of up front. Here I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, all right, we want a 15-foot proximity grouping. We want to group on a level. And I will also want to group on a, let's see here. Let's go with a property condition. So I'm going to say system classification. In element A. We're going to drag and drop these into place. And there we can see we have level, mechanical system classification, and then proximity. Down here in the naming, we can see that it's going to name it level, system classification, element A and B. So maybe what we want to do is add another grouping to get a little bit more specific here. And we can say, all right, well, what I want to do is I want to figure out what room it is in as well. That is now a way that we can group. We can group on all of these intelligent elements that we have here in the model. We can see level, room, mechanical system classification. Now we'll be able to see exactly what system it is, what level, what room, and what exact elements are being found. As we move through the process, this is where things get really interesting. Now, I don't really expect all the clients to jump right into what I'm about to show here, because there is going to be a vetting and a trust process with the product, and we totally understand that. But what I'm about to do is actually determine how this test that I've just created is going to automatically get issued to the recipients and automatically get reported on when issues are created. So here I'm just going to go simply choose a stamp. Now, a stamp is a feature that goes back even before version 5. And we originally did it for punch listing, but what happened is people realized that it worked actually better as an issue template, both in the field and in the office. So what it allows us to do is actually template out these issues. So we've grown those uses into clash stamps, where we can assign a specific stamp that gets directed to a specific person, as we can see here, with a specific tag, watchers, and even set a deadline for a certain number of days out. All of this can be automated, and we can choose if we want to be asked each time before we sync, or if we want to sync reviewed and not reviewed. Now, this doesn't make sense yet because we haven't jumped into the results. But essentially what this is saying is do we want to go through a formal reviewed and not reviewed process of the clash results, or do we just want to send everything from our results through? So once all this is set up, I can finish, and what I can see is that we have a new clash test created, and all of my criteria is set up here on the right. Everything from the name, the selection, what type of collision it is, grouping. Here we can see the metadata. I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and say okay there. So we don't have a zone specified because I have not specified one in this project, but we'll go ahead and turn this off, and we'll say level, room, space, area, and grids. And this is all metadata that's going to be included in the clash result. We can also come down here and see the view and the screenshot. Now, these are very important settings because one thing we've found is that everyone likes us differently. Some people like really zoomed out screenshots without sections. Some people like them zoomed in with sections. And we really could never find that right balance. So what we decided to do was that we would enable the users to select what colors they wanted for each clash, as well as introducing a third color option that shows which elements have actually been resolved or approved. So there is an automatic resolution that happens when a model is uploaded, or there are approved items which a human will actually approve. We can choose our zoom factor. So if we want a very high level view without a section box, we can go all the way up here. Or if we want to get a little tighter, we can go down here. So we'll choose right about here. We'll make sure that the section box is a good size of 30 foot. We'll make sure that that section box is truncated above and below the object at the level. Here we can choose what are our issue screenshot settings. So I'm going to say I want a white appearance. Actually, let's do this. Let's use the model construction. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and go with the white, and simply because it's already shared. And I do apologize, I should have jumped out and shared those, but we'll go with the white appearance, 3 colors. I want both of the objects transparent. I want to isolate those. Actually, let's go ahead and show all. Actually, isolate and transparency. Apply a section box. And we want to update the screenshots for all clashes, changed clashes, changed except manual, or none. Now the reason that this is important is because any change that you make here immediately applies to all of the views if all is chosen. If we want to maintain our automated screenshots, except for the ones that we've changed, we would choose this option. So there are a few technical choices here that we have to make. And then we can also choose how do we want to update the viewpoint, for all or just for changed clashes or for none. Once all this is set up, we can say OK. And as you can see, everything else is very simple, down to what models are using for grids and levels as well. All of these settings are very important because they determine our results and how our results are created. Now, we're about ready to run the Clash test. I want to explain 3 buttons before we move forward. First, there's this button. What this button does is runs clash detection and generates results. There's this button. What this button does is turns your reviewed results, or all your results depending on your selection, into issues at the click of a button. This does both at the same time. So if you feel comfortable in the workflow that you've set up, you will be able to automate the entire process all the way through reporting, as well as delegating the issues to the right people. So in this situation, we're just going to run the clash real quick, and we're going to talk about what happens then. So I'm going to go ahead and click now, and we're going to see that clashes are ran, and then it's going to go through, and it tells me that we found 2,091 hits that have been automatically grouped into 514 groups. I say OK. And if I expand this a little bit, I'll start to see some statistics on this. So let me go ahead and move some of these items over. I can also determine what do I want to see and what do I not want to see. So with everything on, there can be quite a few items here, but we can scroll left and right. So you can see groups, clashing, how many have been resolved, what the stamp is, deadline default, when the test was created, when was it last ran, when was it last synced. All this information is here. If I open the test, this is where I will see all the results. Inside of this, I can look at the clashes without changing anything about them. So here I can actually zoom in on the clash. I can see exactly what's clashing. I can turn my section off if I want to. Any of these options are right here. If my zoom factor is a little too tight, I can always go back and change it for everything at once. Now, if you'll notice, what I can't do is change the status. That's where the collaborative nature of Revizto Clash Detection comes in. We want coordination teams to be able to work on these all at the same time without doing any sort of rework. So what that means is that you will check out the test, and whenever you check out the test, then you will be able to edit it. So everything about viewing will be available, but when you check out a test, that means that you're taking ownership of it. Here, I can actually see all the clashes in the test all at one time, if I wish. This is part of the extended viewing capability that Revizto is providing now. Not only can I view all of them, but I can zoom right in on them and reveal them as I move through here with the automated grouping. So a little tight on my screenshot, but that's okay. If I want to change that, I can go back here. I can say view and screenshot. We can move our zoom factor out, say okay. And now when I come back in, we're going to see that zoom factor is already out for every single clash. So lots of flexibility in the ability to see these. Over on the right, what you're going to see is that we can choose those appearance profiles. So if I say model construction or model design, I can begin to actually see where this clash resides with these other appearance templates. So I can go to Clash ISO, and here I can see those items right there. So here is another option where we can say, do we want 2 colors? Do we want by zone? Do we want by a certain property? And this will become more apparent as we select all the clashes. So if I select all of them, and I go back to a white background, and then we have our 3 colors, you'll notice that I want to say by level. And now it will color each clash by what level it exists on. Or maybe I want to say by room. It will go through and now color each clash based on the room that it exists in. So, and even on to other items which will show each individual clash as its own color. So some options in here that may not be used as much, some options in here that will very much be used, such as this one. Show me all the clashes that have to do with the mechanical system classification. And there we can see items colored based on what mechanical system they belong to. So lots of flexibility in the way that we use these view settings here. And one thing to keep in mind is that the view settings are not just over here with the ability to lock the camera and the section box. So for example, in conjunction, maybe we want to say, show me, let's see if we can get to a level view here real quick. All right, don't have that level here, and that's okay. What I'll actually do is I'll use my clash detection to do that. So I'm going to say, show me all the clashes on level 9. I'm going to select all those clashes. Make sure that we have our 3 colors on here. And there I can see all the clashes existing on level 9. Look like we got some of those items with the riser. Or maybe I want now to go to level 7. I can see, all right, here are all the clashes on level 7. I can cut a section around those very quickly and see exactly where those clashes exist. So very quick way to look at the clashes. As I look at the clashes, the other thing is there is a level of coordination that's going to be happening on the VDC and BIM coordination teams. And that is, what is an issue and what isn't an issue? One thing we decided during the development is that a clash doesn't necessarily make an issue. And this is where that can be determined, or it can be automated. So in here, if there is a way, and we do have some other ways to get rid of false positives, such as including and negating exclusion sets, which is a little bit more advanced of a topic. However, here what we can show is that if we do happen to find a false positive, let's see if we can find one that represents a false positive a little bit more. Maybe we know that this is actually taken care of. We can call this approved. Clash changes color, letting us know that that clash has been approved. And not only does it notify that it's approved, but it says who approved it and when they approved it. So very important part of this approval process. But maybe some of these issues are definitely issues, and we can set those to reviewed. This allows coordinators to come in here and decide what is an issue, what isn't an issue, and what have I just simply not gotten to yet. As they go in here, maybe they want to select a few items and say, all right, well, all of these are approved. And let's go here and say all of these are definitely issues. We want to make sure that those are sent through as reviewed. I can edit all of this, and then I can, once I am done with this, I can actually sync this to the issue tracker. So as I sync here, it will say, you have 14 clashes that have been reviewed. Do you want to sync that? That is the default answer. Or do you want to say everything needs to be an issue? In most cases, we're going to suggest that only reviewed is in there. And once we sync that up, it is going to automatically create issues and delegate those based on the stamp to the right person. So here you can see that now those stamps or those clashes have been interjected directly into the issue tracker. There is an issue ID for those. It says who the stamp is, and I can click right here and get directly to the clash. I can get to the clash in the screenshot. I can get to it in 3D. I can see where it exists in 2D. I can look at it in the map tool. All of these come into play. So very, very powerful. If I come here, let's say that we start to move some of this up. And then let's detach the sheet here. All right, so we can see the clash, we can see the sheet. So here's where all of those issues are. If I go back, let's say I want to lock my camera in my section box to take a look at these issues. I can actually see where all of these issues are using our hypermodeling, 2D, 3D. All of this is available. And like I said, we have the issues directly here. All of those clashes have been put into the issue tracker. When I open this, what I'm going to see is that we have all these clashes. They're put directly into the issue tracker. The group is there. The object data is there. As you can see, we can select between the object data. I can see exactly what those source files are. Clash number, grid, level, room. All of that information is right there in the issue tracker with all of the same metadata that we've always had. The ability to begin to work with these like regular Revizto issues. All of the filters are available. So as we can see here, we can go in and see that test that we created today. And at this point, it works just like Revizto, connecting those models and that model data through the clash detection process and directly into issue tracking, taking advantage of the way that we get information out to everybody on the project and the way that we automate reporting. So this has been a really brief demo and kind of a little chat about how we ended up where we are and what the product's all about and how we hope that individuals use it. I'm always open for questions. You can get a hold of me on Twitter, on LinkedIn. My email address is on the website. It is b.settles, S-E-T-T-L-E-S, @revisto.com. I would be happy to hear from you. So thank you very much for your time, for anyone that's watched this, and hopefully it helped you learn a little bit about the product. Thank you.